Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 4, activating awareness, well-being, intimacy, and self-mastery. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today we have a very special guest, Alara Canfield. Welcome, Alara.
Oh, thank you so much, Waxela. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. And what I like to do before we jump in is just to do a short guided meditation to get us all present and ready for whatever is in this conversation today. So I invite everyone to join us by closing your eyes and deepening your breath. And as you're breathing, bring your awareness into your body. Just noticing what you're feeling what you're feeling, whatever it is. And then bring your awareness to your heart center and tune in to the light inside your heart. Feel that light glowing and growing out around your chest and around your body. And then send that heart light up through the crown of your head, all the way up to central sun, making contact with the heart light of central sun, the source of light for our universe. And then bring that light down through the ethers into the crown of your head, through the spine into your own heart center. And then continuing down through the base of the spine and down into the earth, all the way into the heart center of Mother Earth, finding the light in the heart of the earth and feeling that nurturing divine feminine energy, the creative energy. And then bring that light up through the layers of the earth, through roots, into the base of the spine, carrying this liquid crystal plasma creative energy, and bring that energy all the way up the spine and then into your heart center, joining with the light from above and the light within, creating the trinity of light from above, below, and within, birthing the divine child within you so that you may be fully present, fully aware, and open to receive whatever is for your highest good in this conversation today. And with that, come on back, open your eyes. Thank you for joining me in that. And now I'm going to share a little bit about our guest, Alara, because she is up to amazing things in the world. Alara Canfield is a quantum healer, connector to spirit, ascension assistant, transformation consultant, catalyst for change, and soul plan accelerator. She is a speaker, author, intuitive healer, coach, and the host of the Alara Canfield Show, Awaken to Happiness Now. As a quantum healer, Alara is able to transmute energy that is not serving her clients in order for them to be in greater alignment with their soul plan and divine purpose and shine in the world. Wow, I love that.
Thank you.
So for anyone who maybe isn't familiar with your work, I'd love to just start at the beginning and get an understanding of how did you step onto this path? Were you always spiritual, or did it come about in a certain way? How did you start to do this work?
Well, it's interesting. I'm Indian, in case somebody doesn't know that or is wondering, but I'm Indian. So my family has always been into meditation, yoga, gurus, all that kind of stuff. So I've been, meditating since I was maybe 18 or something, like long time ago. And so that was the beginning for me, just watching my father. I have my guru in India still, and learning from him, spending time with him and other amazing beings of light who were quite advanced spiritually. So I was like, wow, how did I get so lucky? And then at one point I had a mystical experience. And it was when I was at the lowest depths of possibility at that moment. And Lord Shiva came to me, and Lord Ram came to me, and that just totally, I was not expecting it, obviously, but it was really transformational, and it was a catalyst to put me on the path and to actually keep me here, right? Because in that moment, I had just attempted to commit suicide right before that happened. So it's like they were there to show me and tell me that, you're here for a greater purpose. You're here to do something else. Don't worry about all this stuff that's been happening, but all the despair and sadness was actually wonderful because it brought those blessings to me. And then, I tried to fit into the world, did the whole worldly thing. I worked in the government in Canada. And then, I finally got to the point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. It's like, I need something else. I need something different. My soul is calling me. My heart is calling me. I was listening to telesummits, right? Darius specifically. And so I decided to start my own show while I was still working in the government. That was 2013. So I've been doing my own show since then. I've been doing healing and coaching since then as well. So I have a lot of modalities under my belt. I've learned so much for myself, mostly at the beginning. It was for me and my children. And then slowly it got to be for how can I help humanity? Right? How can I let humanity know, or whoever is listening to know, that something else is possible for them, that they don't have to be stuck in, in their lives, wherever they happen to be stuck. And that, really we do have the opportunity to have more joyful, happy lives. That's what it's called, Awaken to Happiness Now. But it's, Awaken to Happiness Now, it's also about embodying happiness, being happy in every moment as much as we can be. And we all have challenges, absolutely. But the thing is, we always have support as well. They always say, you're never given more than you can handle. It's like, okay, but you know what? I'm good. I think I'm good for now. So we do have a lot of challenges in life as we're growing up, but I find what with most light workers, the more challenges we have, it's kind of like we're clearing a lot for not just ourselves and our past lives, but also for the collective, for our ancestors. We're doing a lot of work, a lot of deep work. And when you start to notice that and get that it's not just about you, right? It's not just for you, it's about everybody else. It kind of makes the journey a little bit easier. It's like, all right, I can handle this. This is happening and this is happening. All right, let me use my tools. Let me be present. Let me, call up to God or your higher self or your support team and have them be with me, because we are not alone. We are always supported. And I think that, if anything, that is the biggest message I want to give for sure, is that we are never alone. Because I felt alone for a long time, right? I felt alone. I felt like I was the only one who was going through what I was going through, because my dad didn't know anything about energy, right? Or angels or anything like that. He just knew about meditation and yoga, right? So it's like, I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know about angels until I started on the path. I didn't know about galactics until I started on the path, So it's like, it was really strange for me. I didn't grow up with that. I knew about all the gods and goddesses of India, yeah, but that was it, right? So I learned a lot on the path, and part of that is also about trusting that you're on the path. You're always on the path, and making the choices that light you up, and that make your life more ease filled. And I think that's what we have to always remember. It's like, what is going to bring you more ease? Choose that. What is going to light you up? Choose that. What's going to bring you more joy? Choose that, instead of, I should do this, shoulda, woulda, coulda. No, that doesn't work anymore. Those rules that other people have imposed upon us from time to time, our childhood, our parents, our elders, our society, they don't work. I mean, they might for some people, but if they don't work for you, then choose something that does work for you. Be honorable, of course, be respectful, of course, no danger to anybody, of course, but always come back to you, come back to your heart space, connect to your heart space, connect to the divine within you. You are that. And the more that you can connect to that, the more you will have the clarity of, really, who am I and why am I here? And what is my next step?
Yeah, wonderful. So I thank you for sharing that. That's powerful. And I can't help but want to know more about your mystical experience. Lord Shiva and Lord Ram appeared to you. Would you be willing to share a little bit more about what happened? What did they look like? How did they appear?
And I don't think I've actually shared this live anywhere, right? Because it was like, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. People are going to think like she's just making it up, right? But I had just come back from trying to commit suicide. So I was at the edge of a lake, and I was going to jump in the lake and just drown. And in that moment, you know, a voice said to me, what is this going to do to mommy and daddy? And that stopped me right there in my tracks. And it's like, oh, I can't do that to them. Right. So I came back to my apartment, and then I was even more depressed. I was like, oh my God, I can't even kill myself. Right. And so in that moment of like total despair and crying, and everything, I just, I think I was kind of in a daze, right? Because like you're so down, you're so low, you can't think straight. And in that moment, suddenly this light and being appeared in front of me. And I knew it was Shiva because I know what Shiva looks like, right? Just from pictures and whatever. And that's what we're going to experience mostly. But it wasn't just light. It was like he was standing there, and from his hand, sparks of light were coming out of his hand and into me. And I'll be honest, that scared me. Right? It scared me. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Because in Indian mythology, that's what Shiva does to destroy and like destroy whatever's in front of him, right? But it's like, so it's like, oh my God, I closed my eyes, and then I called on Lord Ram because he's gentle, he's kind, he's loving. I called on him, I opened my eyes, and he's standing there. And this time, Lord Ram is standing there, but with his hand up in blessing. Right. So it was just blessing and just peace. And that, allowed me to just relax into it and just be, and just embracing those two energies and those two, for me, really powerful figures in my life. It was profound. It's like, all right, I can't do this. I have to get out of this funk. Right. So then I completely changed everything in my life. But the thing is, after, a couple of years or whatever, I realized that what Shiva was doing, he was not destroying me, but he was destroying that negativity around me. He was destroying those negative, heavy, dense, dark thoughts and feelings that I was having. That's what he was destroying, not me. Right. And so he was clearing my space and my aura so that I could continue on my path. And so that's how I like to look at it. And that's, like even still, Shiva is, my number one person, in my life who I'm devoted to. But, I'm Indian, so I have Lord Krishna, of course, and Lord Ram and all the goddesses, so it's a normal thing. But Lord Shiva is who I turn to when, I'm feeling down, Lord Shiva and Shakti, right? The mother aspect. And that's who I turn to when I'm really down. It's like, I don't know what to do. Please help. Right. So can you please help me? And, having that support system, knowing that they're always there. Right. And I just have to call on them. But the thing is, we forget to call on them. Right. We forget. It's like, oh, yeah, I have that support system always around, always with me. Why am I letting my thoughts and my feelings take over who I really am and what I know is right for me? So fortunately for me, I feel I'm very, very blessed, like I said, because of the experience with Shiva and with Ram. And not just that, going to places in India, really spiritual, holy places where, it's like, oh, they actually walked here, and it's like feeling their presence in those spaces. And it's like, I know that I've always had a profound connection with them in previous lifetimes as well. I know I've been a monk, I know I've been, doing lots of yoga and prayers and meditations, and I know I've done all that. And so having them still with me now is quite a blessing. And so I always talk about being blessed, and some people in the Western world may not look at that as the way I do, but I'm blessed in that I feel fortunate that I have had that experience. So all the pain before that, I have no regrets. Right? I have no regrets because it gave me that blessing, and I'm forever grateful and knowing that, what, God has my back. I just have to like not turn my back on God. Right? So we do that sometimes from time to time, where we get angry and upset, and we're like, God is not here. Why are you doing this? And, and I've done that when there was a plane crash in the Air India plane crash where 329 people died. It was a terrorist attack. I was angry. because there were so many people on that plane that I knew that I was angry, and I got mad at God. It's like, why did you let this happen? It was a childish kind of behavior, right? But we are a child in the eyes of God, right? So that's the relationship that I had at that point, because I was much younger. I was like 18, but now I hope I'm more mature and I have a better understanding. But for me, it's always about connecting all the time to source, to God, whatever name you'd like to choose, and knowing that that energy that is always with me, no matter what. I'm going to go through challenges. Of course, we all do. Right now, we're going through a horrendous experience, and it's like always counting on that presence to be with me so that I can ask questions, get guidance, get support, just feel nurtured and replenished, even. Right? When on those days when I'm feeling really exhausted by all my mental chatter and my emotional dramas that are going on, coming back to that place of stillness and silence helps me to continue to do the work that I do.
Hmm. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. No, it's interesting. And you probably found similar things in all the interviews you've done, but how so often someone's catalyst for a mystical or spiritual life-changing experience is that dark night of the
Yeah,
soul, and having such low lows that it's as if you just give up the veil, like it's not there anymore because you're not in the normal rational mind, and then it allows an opening. And I think that's incredibly, it's tragic and it's beautiful all in one, and you get exactly what you need in that moment. And so how wonderful that your guidance came and saved you from that part of yourself.
absolutely. Absolutely, because
Yeah.
I mean, since then I've experienced wonderful, wonderful experiences. I mean, I have my children who I love like crazy. My new husband is like beyond magnificent. My community of the Awaken to Happiness Now community is amazing. They're so, oh
Yeah.
my God, I can't even tell you. I mean, I'm one who does not reach out very often, and I don't ask for support, and I don't tell anybody what's going on. But when my husband had his multiple strokes back in November, and he was unresponsive, I reached out, and the outpouring of love and blessings and comfort and support was just, it blew me away. I was like humbled beyond belief, and I'm like so grateful. It's like I had no idea. I
Mm.
didn't know that I had to have such an experience to show me how truly loved and supported I am. But it just, I couldn't believe it. And luckily, 9 months later, my husband is still doing great, and I'm still so grateful for my family and my friends and my community. They have helped me to stay strong through all of this, because I couldn't have done it on my own. This was even worse than what I experienced when I was 22. So this was worse than that.
Mm.
But I think, anyways. Um, but it's amazing how life can change, right? How your life can change and progress as you are willing to do the work for yourself, but also if you're willing to actually be here, be committed to your life and have experiences, right? And so it's like, and for me, it's like choosing those experiences. I didn't choose the strokes, but I chose to be with my husband and live here with him, where I have no family and no support system. I chose that, and I knew what I was getting into. So that was a choice, but I wouldn't change it. I have no regrets about any of my choices. But instead, it's like, all right, so this was an interesting choice. What choice am I going to make next? Right. And then for me, it's always about not having regrets, but it's like, all right, well, that was not exactly what I thought, not exactly what I expected. So what do I want to choose moving forward? Right. And so again, even now, it's always about, all right, what is my soul calling me to do? Right. So we all have a plan of some sort, but also it's also our choices that define or make up our plan moving forward. It's always our choices, our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and our choices moving forward. And so it's really important for all of us to ask ourselves, what do I really want? And what that means is, what do I really want to experience? What qualities, what virtues, what frequencies do I want to have around me and embody? Because that's what we're experiencing, what qualities we're actually embodying in the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, I'm noticing how you mentioned reaching out, and it's not your go-to thing to reach out to people, and you hold back from that. And yet, you started the conversation by saying we must reach out to guidance or God or, source, whatever you call it, in order to get that support. And we don't reach out enough. And the same is true with our communities, with our, it's amazing what happens. And I've found the same thing in my own life. And I'm also not one to reach out for help. But when I do, I'm always blown away by how much support is actually there for us.
Well, they say ask and you shall receive, right? But we don't ask because we have this fear of rejection, fear of that we're not going to receive what we need. Or maybe in the past when we've asked, we had not a good experience, But honestly, if you're asking from your heart space, if you're really coming to the place of surrender and it's like, I really need help, the help will be there. The help will be there. Absolutely. 100%. I will tell you that, like, I have so many experiences where I haven't even had to voice the words help or ask for help, but the support was there. And, it's like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, guides. Thank you myself for asking, for being at this point where it's like, yeah, I can't do this by myself. I need help. And right now, everything that we're going through, so many of us, we cannot see our family and friends. We cannot touch each other, kind of thing. So it's really important to reach out even more so, pick up that phone, call somebody, get on a Zoom or a FaceTime or whatever, and make that connection, because people are missing it. And, we don't ask, right? And so, because we always think like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. Even with God, it's like, oh, I don't want to bother God with this stupid little thing. It's just a stupid little thing. I don't really need help with that. Why not? It's like, there's no such thing as big or little. Once you ask, you're opening up your heart space to receive, right? So when you don't ask, you're actually closing it off. You're closing those doors to abundance. You're closing those doors to opportunity and possibility. But when you open your heart and ask, so much more is available to you, and so much more comes to you than what you even thought possible. And that's what I have found in my life, like all those times when I have followed my heart and really trusted my heart and said, well, this is how I'm feeling. All right, I'm going to go with this. It's been beyond what I could imagine. Maybe I have low expectations. I don't know. But everything was always so much more, right? And so that gives me, that it's, for me, that's grace. That's grace. And that's like, I guess I have a really gentle heart, right? So I don't have a lot of expectations in most cases, and I'm willing to go with the flow. And it's like, whatever will be, will be. I'm just open to whatever happens. And when you do that, it can be quite magical. And when I'm not trying to control everything, even though I do call myself a recovering control freak, I think I do try to control in some areas of my life, but I've gotten better. And those times when I've let go of the control and just being open to what is, it's been wonderful. Try it, play with it for yourself, right?
Yeah. Finding that balance of control and surrender. And it is always kind of like the double-edged sword, and walking the center path a lot of times from, like not trying to control too much, but taking action, and then not surrendering to the point of non-action or doing nothing, but not, like where finding that balance in every situation.
And that's the thing. I just really quickly, I don't like the word surrender, right? I never have, right? There's something about surrender that I just don't like. For me, it's almost like giving up or giving in. So for me, it's more about, I'm going to be an allowance to what shows up. Whatever shows up, I'm going to allow it to come into my field and see if I like it, right? So I'm not surrendering exactly, but I'm being an allowance and acceptance of what is in the moment. And being present in the moment is where the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all about, I think, the conversation around self-love and worthiness. When we trust ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we're willing to give ourselves what we need, it's a lot easier to find that balance, to find that center.
Absolutely. And self-love is something everybody talks about. It is a buzzword in the industry, right? But self-love really is about looking out for you. You are number one. Not if you have little kids, but you know what I mean, right? So you are number one. Everybody else comes second. So for the past 9 months, my husband was number one because he was in an acute health situation. So he was number one. But normally I'm number one. Everybody knows it. Then it's my kids, and then it's my husband. Now it's me, my kids and my dog, then my husband, and then everybody else. Okay, so I still, because we came here for us. We didn't come here just to be mothers and spouses, right? We came here for our own experience. So we are individuals. We're playing all these different roles. And when we can honor that, yeah, I came here for me. I'm important. I am of value. Just because I exist, just because I'm here, not because of the role I play as a mother and a wife or a host or whatever, anything else. That doesn't matter. But you are what matters. And you are a divine spark. You are a child of God. You can use it, whatever words you want to use, but you are that, right? You are experiencing divinity within you. You're expressing divinity within you and through you. But we forget how important we are, how valuable we are, how worthy we are. And when you start to put yourself first and nurture you, honor your choices. I mean, it might be something as simple as, you know what, I want to go for a walk today just because I want to. I need it for my body and I need it for me. I need to just for 10 minutes, I need this. Is my husband going to say no? No, of course not, because he's a really good husband, and he, understands that when I need something for me, he will move heaven and earth to make sure it happens, whatever it happens to be, right? So he will do that for me. But it's like, yes, it makes me feel good. It nourishes me. I need to be outside walking and be out in nature, because that way I'm more expanded. When I'm in the house, I'm more contracted, right? So that's a small little thing. But I've made so many choices since I was like 42 or something that people didn't understand, but it's like, this is what feels right to me. This is what I'm doing. So I divorced my ex-husband, and he's a great guy, the father of my children, great guy, but I was feeling empty. So it's like, this doesn't work for me anymore. And he was like stunned. And I was like, how can you be stunned? We haven't, like, we don't really get along. We have nothing in common, etc. But not just that, everybody else in my whole universe was like, how can you divorce him? He's a great guy. He does nothing bad. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't beat you. Why? It's like, I want more than that. Right. So at that time, I didn't know what I wanted exactly, but I wanted a love, somebody who would love me for me, and that I would love them for them, without any conditions, without any judgment, nothing. And then, I met my husband, my now husband, and I mean, total acceptance, total allowance. I can be me, and there's absolutely no judgment. Do I judge him a little bit? Sometimes, but not that much. But the thing is, like, we are free to be who we are. And that, when you have a relationship like that, it allows you to open up even more to yourself, to your community, to God, because you don't have those barriers anymore, that resistance and that fighting all the time with, I should be doing this, but I'm not. I should be happy with him, but I know I'm not, like all that kind of stuff, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? So when you start to make choices for you and honoring you, it doesn't matter what the whole world says. You have to be true to you and what your heart is saying. Like I said, I had nobody in my corner except for my kids. They were in my corner. It's like, Mom, you do whatever works for you. We love you. Be happy. I said, okay. It was hard for them, right? They were teenagers, but still, they were the only ones who said, yeah, they don't see what goes on in the house. They don't know how miserable you are, etc. Right? But nobody else. So that support system that we have here in our lives, there was none of that. But at the same time, I still knew I had the support from above, right? Because if I didn't have that desire within me, that's why it was there. It was my higher self. It was the universe telling me, yeah, there's still something missing. You still need something else. There's something else on your path that you are meant to experience. So trusting that, honoring that, listening to that guidance and those whispers, even sometimes, even when you don't know. It's like, I don't know what my dad asked me. So what are you going to do now that you're divorced? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I will figure it out. And everybody asked me, well, how are you going to survive on your own? It's like, I don't know, but I will. How are you going to clean the house? I was like, I don't know, but I will. I like all that stuff, right? It's like, somehow it'll all work out, and it did. And then I moved to Europe and blah, blah, blah. And everybody was, again, I guess, how can you leave your kids? They were older. It's like, oh my God, really? It's like, have you not learned yet that I'm going to do what feels good? So, it's been a bit of a fight of what you should do and what feels right for me, right? And culturally, family-wise, all that wonderful stuff. But you have to always come back to, how does it feel in my heart space? When I come back to my heart space, how does it feel when I think about being with my husband, moving to Europe, whatever happens to me, how does it feel inside? Does it light you up? Does it feel constrictive? Of course, it's normal to have fear, but when it really is, I find for me, the right path for you, you're not going to feel that fear. You're going to feel that lightness and joy and expandedness. And then you trust that and you take the next step. And then again, keep asking, going back to your heart space. When I first met this husband now, all the fears from my first husband came up because it was long distance and all that stuff. And all those fears came up. And I had to tell myself, he is not that other person. I am not the way I was 20 years ago. This is not the same situation. So I had to calm my mind down and saying, listen, let's go back to the heart space. How does it feel when I think about being with him? It's like, really good. And honor that, trust that. So, you were talking about trust earlier. One of the free gifts is an audio on trust, because I think trusting yourself, trusting your path, trusting your connection with source and spirit is so important. And there are still times when I may not be trusting myself, and when I go into doubt, but then always come back to your heart space. All right, well, how does this feel? And so when you do that, you really are honoring you. And that is a form of self-love. When you're coming back to your heart space and asking questions of yourself, and then trusting that whatever information you get and taking action, that is self-love. It's the little things, and it's also the big things. So what lights you up? What brings you joy? That is self-love.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
beautiful.
I have such long answers to simple questions.
No, it's great. It's great. There's so much in there. There's also that, like, what you're talking about really has me thinking of, there's a child's book about filling your pail first before you give away, like pour out the water to someone else. And I was having that image of, it's like, you've got to fill your heart and give from your overflow rather
Absolutely.
than giving from your reserves. When you're giving from your reserves, you get depleted and you end up not helping anybody. And when we're filling yourself up first and giving from that overflow space, then you can be generous and give, and it feels good for everyone. So
Yeah.
I feel like one of those very basic lessons.
Well, I was just talking about that yesterday in one of my groups, in my membership group. The same thing, right? Give from your overflow. So fill yourself up first. So how do you fill yourself up, right? Do you do meditation? Do you do yoga? Do you do chanting? Do you do, I don't know anymore. There's so many things, right? But what do you do to fill yourself up? Do you sit and talk to God? Do you sit and talk to your higher self? Do you connect to the light? Do you connect to Mother Earth? Like, what is it that you do for you? This is all for you. What do you do for you to nurture you? And also it's about, what is the light that is vibrating out of you, right? So is it clear? Is it clean? Is it pristine? Is it positive? Is it joyful? Or is it like muddy because there's all this baggage in your field, right? Is like all these belief systems and wounds and, stress, all that kind of stuff. So it's really important to maintain our energy field, maintain our body, maintain our self-worth even, right? So reminding ourselves, oh yeah, you know what? I did this, I did this, I did this. Oh, that was so much fun. And I honored myself by doing things that are fun for me. And when you do that, your sense of self-worth and self-esteem goes up because you know that, you know what? I am worthy of whatever I desire. Look at all the wonderful things I have experienced so far in my life. It's pretty amazing. So it's like, yes, I'm actually worthy because I'm actually connecting to myself all the time. And the more that you connect to your heart space, connect to your higher self, connect to your light, it expands, right? And it amplifies and magnifies each time, right? So there's more light in your field. So that's what you're, shining out all the time is your light. So is it a positive light or not, right? So it's something to look at all the time. And it's that maintenance of filling yourself up first and give from the overflow. Otherwise we all experience burnout from time to time. I've been exhausted, I'll be honest, for the past couple of months, but it was extreme situation. So I was like, all right, but I'm still taking care of myself, right? Going for massages. I haven't been able to get my nails done or to get my hair done, but that'll come with time. So doing what's fun for you and nurtures you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also wanted to comment on I love that you were willing to bring up, and it's kind of a vulnerable topic, the idea of leaving a relationship, particularly a marriage, that just isn't filling you up anymore, that just isn't, what you want, because we do change. And tomorrow, Allison Armstrong is the speaker, and she talks deeply about that very thing, about why do we stay in relationships when they're not supporting us in the way maybe they did when they began, because of a contract, and so it does take courage to step away from that, but knowing, okay, there's more for me. And you're intuitive, so I'm sure that helps. I did the same thing. I walked away from a marriage that there's nothing wrong with him, it just wasn't working. And it was the same kind of perception, like, okay, well, if nothing's terribly wrong, why don't you stay together? Right. And that's,
well,
nothing
because
terribly wrong isn't enough.
no, and it's not terribly right, so it's like,
Right.
that's the thing. It doesn't fulfill you anymore. And when you get to that point, that really is an end of a contract.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And so recognizing that, this path is now over and it's time for a new path. And it turned out that my ex-husband, when he finally realized, took time and said, yeah, you're right, we needed to move on and do something else. And then he got married again as well. He divorced her, but that's okay. But now he's in a better relationship. So, he's still searching, right, for his perfect ending. There's no perfect ending, but it's about recognizing that, contracts end at a certain point, and you have to be willing to keep going, move forward with your life. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, our contracts with our kids do not end. I think that goes on forever. But with spouses and, like, other people in our lives, they can end. They might only be there for a short period of time. I think I stayed in my marriage way too long as well, but I was waiting for the kids to get into university, and then I was going to go. I already had that in my mind, but then I couldn't wait anymore, right? And the universe was like, no, they'll be fine. And so people ask me, well, like, aren't you worried about what it's going to do to your kids? And I said, well, if I'm not happy, how are they going to be happy? And what am I teaching them, by staying in a marriage where we don't love each other as much as we could? I wanted them to, not be jaded by that experience. And so then when I got remarried, my son at the wedding, he was crying, and my friend asked him, why are you crying? She goes, I've never seen my mom so happy.
Wow.
I've never seen my mom so happy. And so that's what I want to share and model for my kids, that you can have a good relationship, a loving relationship, a fun relationship, and, when it, and that, I think that was important for them to see that and they do see that I'm happy with my husband all the time. I'm always laughing. That's the thing. It's like, I didn't laugh before, right? I never laughed with my ex-husband. With this husband, I laugh all the time. It's like, it's amazing and it's wonderful, and I love him. And and that feeling of, I actually truly love him, I didn't feel that with my ex-husband. I maybe did at the beginning, but I didn't really feel that. So for me, that was important, being able to truly love someone for who they are, not what they do or anything else, but for who they are as a human being. And, I do. And my husband loves me, and there's no judgment, and I can do whatever I want. He treats me like a princess. Who wouldn't want that? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that. And that's beautiful. And, that we do have contracts, and sometimes it's about upgrading, upgrading our frequency and stepping into a new container. And sometimes that means a new partnership or no partnership.
Yeah.
For me, I've been single for 2 years, and just starting now to think about, well, maybe I'm ready to have a relationship, but I needed that time. I needed that time to expand into a new version of myself, so that I could be new
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
or out of a relationship.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, who are you being and who are you attracting, right? So when I left my ex-husband, I wasn't ready for another relationship either, right? But at the same time, I started to do the work, looking at myself and looking at, who am I and what am I holding on to that no longer serves me? And I'm willing to let that go now. And am I willing to be by myself? That was one of the questions. Yeah, I'm willing. I'd rather be by myself than be in a relationship that doesn't fulfill me anymore.
Mhm.
right? So I'd rather be alone than be unfulfilled in that way. And then, when you start to work on yourself, do the inner work, do the healing and clearing and so on, but really be true to you, you will start to vibrate at a different frequency. And that's the frequency that's going to allow that other person to come in whenever it's time, right? So I was not expecting this husband at all. It's like in next month it'll be 10 years that we first met, and the way that we met was magical, and it was like divinely guided, and it's like I couldn't have planned it at all. So it's like, all right, that was set. That was a set plan, so that was on my path. It had to happen that way. But then again, it was still like I still got to choose, because I remember saying to one of my friends who's a psychic intuitive, and I was like, well, I don't know about this guy, because like, how do I know he's real? Because I only met him through like this, right? Through Zoom. At that time it was Hangouts. And it's like, how do I know if he's real? That kind of thing. Well, how do you feel? And it's like, I feel really good, and all that stuff. So it's like, so I had those concerns, right? It's like, I'm not sure if I'm ready. I'm not sure if this is the one. I'm not sure. But then, obviously it was definitely. And then when we met for the first time, it was like, there's no question, right? No question. And for me, that was part of my path, and I'm glad I was able to let go of the old contract so that I could move into the new version of who I am now, right?
Mhm.
And that's what it's about. Once you start to let go of what no longer serves you, including relationships with anybody, then you get to start to be more of who you truly are, and new possibilities open up to you. If I would have stayed with my ex-husband, I would not be here doing this. I probably would have, not been around anymore, because like I was that miserable. Um, so it's like everything happens for a reason, but even still, even when everything happens for a reason, you still get to choose. And
Mhm.
so again, it always comes back to choosing from your heart space, choosing from what lights you up and what feels good to you, not what everybody else says. Because again, my mother said, "Oh my God, can't you find somebody closer?" Because my husband's in Europe, right? So can't you find somebody closer? It's like, no, Mom, I didn't plan this. It happened. I didn't plan this. So they were upset with me when I moved here. It's like, how could you leave Canada? How can you leave your family? How can you leave your kids? Etc. It's like, oh my God, they're grown up now. They'll be fine. And my kids said, Mom, go. You need to be with Robert. Go. So I was like, all right. So trusting yourself, listening to yourself, and following that inner guidance is going to go a long way to you really being who you came here to be. Right. So
Mhm.
I always talk about being the stellar version of you. Right. So the stellar version of you is listening to your guidance, listening to your heart, listening to your soul, and following that guidance. It's not listening to your mind and what your mind's going to say, right? It's not listening to your old emotions and old fears and old patterns and beliefs. That's not going to get you onto the next path. That's going to keep you stuck in what you're at right now. And so it is about, again, trusting and moving forward, taking that leap of faith. And that leap of faith is a faith in yourself, and in the faith in spirit. The spirit is with you and guiding you and got your back. There are lots of times we jump. I tend to jump, right? And it's like, all right, I'm going to either fall or I'm going to fly. So, but if you fall into the hands of God. And if you fly, it's like God's got your back, and then it's the wind beneath your wings kind of thing, right? So either way, that support is there always. You have to be willing to see it, ask for it, and acknowledge it when it shows up in certain ways. Acknowledge it. And the more you acknowledge the support, the more you see it everywhere, in everything, in every blade of grass. It's there, supporting you to recognize who you are, that you are spirit, that you are divine, that you are light. And that's why I love living here where I do, because I get to walk outside, and when we go for our WALKs, it's so magical, right? And sometimes it really feels like, the breeze is flowing just for me. The birds are chirping just for me, and showing me how beautiful life can be. It's like, yes. Yeah.
I love that. How just finding the joy, the happiness, the pleasure in the simple things that are around us all the time, and doesn't have to be some giant thing or a big trip or a big
Yeah.
whatever to find joy. And that's so important on a day-to-day basis. And it also is the title of your show, Awaken to Happiness Now. I love how, it's kind of like that's everything you've shared. That's been your process, awakening to more happiness in your life, and taking like it takes courage, having the
It does.
courage to take those steps, to do all the things that you did, and also even the visibility to be in front of people and share vulnerably, like, yes, I did this, and here's where it led me.
Oh my God. Before I started doing the telesummit, I was a very shy person. I used to stutter when I was younger. I was always the wallflower. I was never the center of attention ever. Right. So when I started doing my show, it was like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. Luckily when I first started, it was only audio. Right. So it's like people didn't have to see me. They just hear my voice. But I got better and better at it, and then I started sharing and sharing more of who I am. But at the beginning, it's like, yeah, I was afraid of that judgment. I was afraid of, what will people say? What will people think? And what if I do stutter? It's like, oh my God, again, what will people say? But because in the past, I always grew up with so much judgment around me, right? My Indian families are very judgmental. That whole culture is very judgmental. So I always expected to be judged, right? Instead of being accepted.
Mm.
Right? So when you come from that place of, I expect to be judged because I've always been judged, it's so freeing to finally feel that feeling of acceptance. And that's why I'm always blown away when I receive support of any kind, because I don't expect it, right? It's like, who knows? But, when you put yourself out there, when you choose to be vulnerable in anything that you do, it is kind of like you're showing the world who you are. That this is me.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. This is me. And, luckily we're in that space now where, we're not going to be burned at the cross kind of thing, right? Or hung or whatever. So it's like, it's just words nowadays. But it's like, you still have to shine. You came here to shine. You came here to be you. Don't let anybody else or that fear of what people are going to say stop you. And we do that a lot. I know I still have a lot of clients who are still afraid to show up because of that fear of rejection, fear of making a mistake, fear of doing the wrong thing. There's no such thing as a wrong thing. It's all an experience. Nothing is a waste of time, right? You're always learning something. Earlier today, my husband said, oh, I wasted 30 minutes on this thing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, no, not really, because you learned what doesn't work, right? So it wasn't a waste, it was an experience, it was a learning experience. You learned that this doesn't work and this doesn't work and this doesn't work. So now you know, okay, maybe something else will work, which did, right? So nothing is a waste. No experience is wasted. And when you start to honor that about yourself, like, yeah, my experience, all of it, none of it is a waste. I don't regret anything. And, everything that I've been through has made me who I am, but not just the external experiences, but the inner work that I've done. Really looking at who I am, really looking at my fears and doubts and insecurities, looking at my old stories and healing them and clearing them and really getting to the truth of all that. And then accepting myself and loving myself. That is what has gotten me to where I am now. Truly accepting myself and loving myself as I am. I'm not perfect. I'm pretty close. I'm not, but but I'm not perfect, right? But even if I'm not perfect, it's okay. I still love myself because I truly am an extension of Source. I am Source expressing through me. And how can Source be imperfect, really?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love
But it's
that.
like we have to remind ourselves of that all the time.
Yeah.
We forget.
Well, thank you for being uniquely yourself. It's really fun to get to know you, and your whole what you're up to in your world is really beautiful and fascinating. So thank you for sharing so generously about all of that. And I want to make sure we let the listeners know about your free gifts. You already mentioned one of them is Trust and Boost Your Light, and then Ignite Your Life. And these are audio recordings, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So trust is one audio recording, and
Oh,
Boost Your
okay.
Light, Ignite Your Life is the second one. And again, that is about you getting onto your soul path, right? Filling you up with light and awareness and clarity, and helping you to shine. That's what it's about, helping you to shine as you. And being you does not mean you have to do something. That doesn't define you. Being you means just who you are. Shining your light as you. completely, all the time. Whatever it is you're doing or being, just be you, and be the stellar version of you. And the stellar version of you is the one that is not going to be taken over by those fears, right? And those doubts and those insecurities and those past patterns. It's like we move above that and we look at the bigger picture and truly what lights us up.
Wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much. Excuse me, Alara. This has been a really fun conversation, and I appreciate everything you've shared. And thanks for the free gifts, everyone. I'll be sure to include a link so you can go download those. And we are at the end of our hour, so I'm going to go ahead and end there. And I also want to say, just know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, on your ascension path, that you are not alone. You have so much help at your disposal in every moment. So we are on this journey together. And thank you for participating with us today. Namaste.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.